Pat. Thank you.
No problem. And I'm going to record today's meeting. I have it recording now, so I will share that with my face or blend or online class. So hopefully that's okay with you guys as well. If it's not, don't show your face. How's that? Anyway, so I kind of wanted to give you an overview for the rest of the course, and I know that some of you may run into issues. Please just reach out to me. I want to tell you that. I mean, right now, I don't know of anyone that's sick, but that doesn't mean that that's not going to happen. And I'm trying to be flexible, but yet keep some of the guidelines in place because I have to get you feedback, um, as soon as I can, so that you can continue working. So but if something in your life happens that you need extensions or whatever, please feel free to email me or contact me. By phone's probably not the best because that's in my office, but get a hold of me and we can talk about it. But for this week, what's going to be due next Monday night is going to be that you will all complete part 7 individually. I'm going to go over that today in class. It's kind of pulling everything together, and then you're going to work on part 6 as a team. And I have an example of that I filled out for Starbucks. I know,
Yeah.
Whoopi, you were asking for that last week, and I didn't have it done. I'm working on this just like you guys.
Yeah, the examples help so much. They're like, it makes it so much easier to like, it doesn't just give you like an outline of how you should do it, but it kind of gives you like a good outline of what you're expecting to, like, so then we kind of just know
Yeah.
kind
And
of
I
just
apologize. I mean, and I'm trying not to be um, hard on grading, because I know you don't know. Sometimes struggling to figure out the information first and then seeing it afterwards actually allows you to remember it better too. So I'm not trying to be totally mean.
The, I find the hardest thing is citing 3 different sources in these assignments. Is anyone else struggling with that part of it?
mm, kind of. My hardest thing is just I don't know, the paragraphs probably. My paragraphs always suck.
Well, don't say that.
They do.
Well, deciding is, and hopefully and I will build that better. And I apologize for that. But like even like this week, you were talking about between a mass market and a niche market. Even if you took the definitions for that from some of the learning materials, that would be one of them right there, right? So try to, and because of the fact that I tried to make the learning materials align with the boxes that you're filling in, you should be it should be relatively easy to find them. But if it's not, reach out to me too, because I can point you to it. And I will agree that sometimes some of it made sense to me when I added it, and it may not make sense to you. But so don't be afraid to ask.
No, the learning materials are great, but it's just using them, like they're great for explaining the material, but just like it's just a little bit different for me of actually like transposing that into my document.
Ah, gotcha. Well, and that part of that is because of the fact that we're trying to get you into the habit of using research for when you're making these business documents. Because when you get to capstone, which is the final class, you have to write an actual business plan, and you need to have all your research and ducks in a row for that. And so this just kind of starts you here to get into the practice. And anytime you learn a new skill, it's never easy. And I think citing is hard anyway, to be honest with you, but it is a skill set when you graduate from college that people expect you have. So
Gotcha.
all right, so then so we went through this week. Then the following week you're going to complete part 7 as a team, and then you're going to work on starting to pull that all together for a final project. So what that means is you'll take all of the information that you've combined and make one document. So that's when all the charts will be added together and they won't be separate. And that's how you'll be graded. And then you will be doing a final presentation to other people. So I've invited people to join us on that last class, which is April 21st. And then each of you would share your screen or however you want to do it. probably do that, and you'll present, and I'll give you more information on what needs to be in there for the final presentation. And that would be your last project that you do, but it should bring everything together. Plus you get outside feedback from other individuals. So any questions on that? And that's really what we're building on.
So you want us to remove the charts or for the final?
No, good question, Todd. No, keep the charts together, but you'll put them all together. So it'd be one document that would flow. And your works cited would be one works cited for the entire project, right? So instead of, go ahead.
So you want the, yeah, I understand the works cited part. You want the charts all in, like in the front and then the summaries of each?
Nope. I want them exactly how you have them, but that it's one Word document. So it'd be the chart, your summary, chart, your summary, and so there'd be 7 of them.
All right.
Is this by ourselves or with the team?
This is with the team.
Okay.
So really my intent was this, and I know other people that teach this class do it differently. The reason I had you do the individual pieces this way first is I wanted you to be aware of all the different parts of the project. But I also realized that this is an introductory course, so it's a lot easier if there's a team of you working together to put all of that in place versus just one of you. So the final project and presentation is team. Now I know some of you have run into, and I don't have my list here, issues with some of your team members not being as active. And so this week when I go on to your team, I will be reaching out if it looks like people aren't participating and finding out if there's anything that you had in your contract that would require you to have this person removed from the team or whatever. I mean, I don't recommend doing that, but sometimes it's hard, or maybe people have just dropped out. I don't know. This has been kind of a weird term. Does that answer your question, Logan?
Yeah.
So what I do want to tell you right now is that most of the hard work, I mean, you've got two more parts to finish, but really you have a really good foundation because the very first 2 sections of this project really set the framework for the rest of this. And you'll see, like, even when we go into part 7, some of that information you already have. So I just want you to know that it's definitely going to be a lot easier. That should make everybody happy. Right?
Yeah.
Yep. And this isn't easy. So don't be hard on yourself either. Just that you're this far along in the course and you're all attending class yet is you should all give yourself a real big pat on the back. And especially in this time when we have such weird things going on. So I am very impressed with everybody so far. And when I give you feedback, it's not because I'm trying to be mean. It's because I'm trying to make sure you have the information that you need to be successful in the rest of the courses. All right. So any questions about any of that?
No. So this project overall is called a business concept. That's
Yes.
what we're doing?
Yep.
Okay.
And it will be added to your Google site. So each of you will take that final project that your team created, and that's going to be added to your Google site, because as you go through the program as well, this is kind of your professional portfolio, and this would be where you could share information with others. But the other key piece is like when you start your capstone project, you're going to have all this great information from this class, and you know how you referred to things that you can actually go back and use, which is kind of helpful too.
Is there a difference between a business concept and a business plan?
Yes. The concept is we're just trying to give you the foundation, and it's probably very unique to Western's business management program. It's really kind of like a little overview of what a business plan is, because a business plan it has several more components to it. And when you get into the business canvas, which is more of like what more people do nowadays, it also has more than what this has. You're just getting introduced to business concepts, types of organizations, competition, what are you doing well, those types of things.
Okay.
Because you didn't even really get introduced to anything other than startup costs as far as financial information would go, right?
Yep.
That's true.
So just think about that. It could have been a lot worse. How's that?
I think it was already pretty bad.
Oh, Whoopi, come on. It's been great, right? Well, at the end of the day, think of all the stuff you've learned, right?
Mm.
I think it could be more difficult depending on the business that you have to work with. Can make
True.
it tougher.
Absolutely. I wish I would have picked a coffee shop.
Well, and that's good feedback, that because I will do an end of the course survey. I run into different this is like we revised it, so this plan is a lot smaller than it used to be, but I would be interested. I mean, I could assign you a business as well rather than choosing it, but most of the time people, if they're really excited about something, then they like to pick their own business. So you can give me that feedback and say, well, Pat, it would have been a lot easier if you'd have said that.
That might not be a bad idea, because I think some people not having foresight, of what's coming, put themselves into a corner. Like, I couldn't imagine having to do this with certain types of businesses. I would be pretty frustrated.
Like an axe throwing business?
I wasn't going to get there. Yes, just like an axe throwing business. Yes, I would be beating my head on the wall over that one.
Yeah, difficult.
Right. And I get that. And really, I'm actually probably more lenient on you. The only thing with like in the axe throwing business, Whoopi, is that it's actually a bar, right? With a
it is. So we got that to save us, kind of.
Yep.
That helps.
And honestly, when I first started teaching, it was crazy. Everybody, or not everybody, but the majority of the students that came in thought that they wanted to start a bar, right? I mean, that was their dream business. And I'm going like, really? You want to start a bar? Do you know how hard that is?
That's still my dream business, kind of.
Is it? It's hard though, you guys. I mean, think about right now. Well, actually, think about any business right now. If you just started a business, we were talking about, I drove by Pizza Ranch. It just opened up off of Highway 16 on Alaska. What if you'd only been in business for 2 weeks and now you got shut down? I mean, you still have all your bills to pay, right?
Yeah, that would be the thing about it, is all those different factors you have to pay, all those bills and rent, and
right.
Even the employees that are unemployment, don't they still have to take care of that and stuff?
They do. No, I'm not, because I don't own a business that owns employees. My understanding was from some of the that bill that was passed to help with the COVID from the federal government is allowing small businesses to get loans, and as long as they follow these certain guidelines, like they keep people employed and pay on their health insurance and stuff, it'll be like forgiven. It would be more like a grant than a loan. And I'm hoping that's truly what it is. But like I said, I haven't, because I don't have a business and I have enough going on. I haven't really read that. But I think that would be helpful, because I mean, if this, now it's going to go on all through April, how are people going to pay their suppliers? Well, and then I mean, it's a domino effect, right? Where it keeps impacting people all the way. So.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So anyway, but bars are really tough, because you always think that you're gonna, it's always this point of view that you think, well, I buy a bottle of booze, I buy it, a case of it, and I pay $8 a bottle for the booze. I have no idea what booze costs, so bear with me. And I can sell 50 glasses out of that for $3 a glass, right? So people, that's how they think of it. It's like, well, I paid $8, I can do this. But the math doesn't always add up, because you forget about all of the other expenses that come within there, right? And that's what this project is supposed to kind of show you.
Okay.
So I'm going to go over the Starbucks example, and then after. Pardon me?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to go over the Starbucks example that I filled out for this. And I know Todd had emailed me last night and asked about, filling in the chart and doing the competition. And I realize that some of this isn't easy to do. So for this one, I'll be really lenient on grading it. And then the last part is today I'll introduce you to part 7, which is the final part of it. And that'll really be pulling all of the information together, plus looking at the industry part of it, which is your NAICS code. And I filled out an example of how to find that with Starbucks. So you should be able to follow along with me. And just before you leave today, I want you to use the chat feature to just type in one thing that helped you today and one area you still have a question about, because I will reach out to you on that. So does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
Okie doke. So I'm going to go and pull up the other document. Keep your fingers and toes crossed. You're laughing. Okay, I think this is it. So can you see a part 6 in front of you?
Yep.
Okay.
I can't read it though. Does it look crazy to everyone else too?
Let me see if I pull it over here, if it changes how it looks. Can you see it still?
No.
No.
Screen.
Okay, then I have to go over. I don't know why it's making me go to this other screen. But you can't read it?
I can't. I don't know if anyone else can.
So if you want, you can go ahead and grab this out of the file and just open it up as a Word document on your computer. Let me see if I can switch this. I don't know what that's doing.
Can I ask a question here?
Sure.
I can see your document. So on number 2, it asks, is this a mass market or a niche market, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I noticed from Carly's example, because we were reviewing this exercise, that she also defined what a niche market is, just like you did here.
Mm-hmm.
But like I didn't do that because the question didn't ask me to define it. So I was wondering, was there some instruction in the assignment link that told us to define that, or was I just supposed to know that?
No. And I'm the only reason that I would define it is, like I said at the beginning, one of the reasons would be this would be an opportunity for you to use one of the sources, right?
Okay.
Or to go out there and find that. And the other thing is I'm always, so if you answer this, so if you said, well, it's a niche market and you didn't tell me anything else, how would I know that that's what it really is, right?
I don't know. I just said, never mind. All right.
And I will be honest with you, you could go back and forth because for Starbucks, you can actually find people that will say it's a mass market versus a niche market.
Okay.
So it's not just because we define it as one doesn't necessarily mean that's exactly what it is, because there's always room for kind of wiggle room in there.
I got you. Good thing we got extra credit. I'll just say that.
Well, well, and at the end of the day, it's like if you make the revisions to that final project, that's going to be weighted more than all of the little mini submissions. So if you make it to the end, you'll do well. How's that?
Okay, that's good. I'm pretty sure that'll
That's good. And I'm just trying to get this to not be that you guys can read it, so I feel kind of bad. Can you kind of see it?
Yeah, we can see it just fine. You're good. Go ahead.
All right. So the first one is what's the competitive advantage of your business, and then and the competitors. And so you can notice that I chose the 2 competitors are Dunkin' and McDonald's. So Starbucks, and the reason that you want to do this is because you will market differently to people based on what you're trying to provide for your customer. So I said Starbucks value proposition is that they live coffee. I mean, they want to make it an experience of drinking coffee memorable, and they have several methods of how they do that in their business plan and why that has made them successful. And it's even the process of coffee drinking experience. So it's the smell. Have you ever noticed that when you walk by a Starbucks, you can usually smell the coffee? When you come in there, it's a warm color, so you feel welcomed in there. How they have the tables set up. There's some that are together, but then there's like couches and things like that. So it's all about the experience. So then if you looked at Dunkin's value proposition, theirs is, and this I took exactly off the internet, and I didn't get it quoted or cited today, but to offer fresh food fast and to offer more choices and to serve quickly in a quality way. So while there's some similarities in there, you can see that there's some differences, correct? I mean, they're competition to Starbucks, but they've kind of taken a little bit different approach to the people that they want to gather. And if you remember from last week, they have two totally different markets. One has a higher income level than the other one. So really, even though they're selling the same product, they are marketing it and getting different customers. Not that there isn't that people go in between both of them, but for the most part, they're trying to get a different type of person. And then my second competitor was McDonald's, and they want to make things easier for you. And their whole mantra is friendliness, cleanliness, consistency, and convenience. So if you think about that, if you're going to go and get a cup of coffee from McDonald's, whether you get it in the state of Wisconsin or you go over to Germany, it's probably going to be the same cup of coffee, right? So that's that consistency piece. Probably the same with Starbucks, but they don't promote that as much as they do the experience. And then the cleanliness and consistency. So while once again, convenience is huge at McDonald's versus if you go back to Starbucks, they're really looking at you to spend a little bit more time there for the most part, because they want you to have that experience and to really drink their high quality coffee. So does that make sense? Questions on that?
I think so.
Okay. So then we go into is it a mass market or a niche market? And really based on the research that I had done, Starbucks is really a niche market. They're not trying to get everyone into their business. They have a really specific smaller segment of that large coffee drinker market that they're looking for. And they have very specific needs and wants. And they're very much more differentiated than, say, Dunkin's. The whole coffee shop idea, when Howard Schultz brought that to the United States, he changed that all up. He wanted it to be an experience, and this was based on something that he had actually experienced himself in Italy. So and think about this, drive by any Starbucks drive-through or any place like that, or next time you do, look at it. They have people customers that line up for the pleasure of paying top dollar for their favorite coffee concoction, because it's made with premium beans. They fashion it to meet a variety of tastes, and they finish it off just the way people like it. As a matter of fact, if you don't like your coffee from them, you can tell them that it wasn't good, and they will redo it for you. So they don't want all the coffee drinkers, but they want a very certain type of coffee drinker, a much more sophisticated coffee drinker than, say, a Dunkin's or a McDonald's. So then you go down, is your product or service priced above or below competition, and why is that? And I said that definitely Starbucks is priced above, but if you're looking at any the other real coffee places in coffee drive-thrus in town, like Mocha, Caribou, Jules, Cabin, they actually are very similar in price. But compared to like Dunkin's and McDonald's, they're about 38% higher than their competitors. And people are willing to pay that because they're a specific, they want that really high quality coffee bean, and they want that experience where people write their name on their cups and get to know them. And then it asked, who are two competitors and why do I consider them competitors? And I put down Dunkin's and McDonald's, and these are some of the reasons why. Now, for your businesses, it might be totally different, but they all have drive-thrus. They serve a variety of beverages. They provide the product quickly. Now, one could argue that that's maybe not the case at Starbucks, but you could go either way on that. And then also a well-known brand. So all of these, like if you see the Dunkin' logo, McDonald's logo, or Starbucks, you know what you're getting, right? So what, and now this was the one where, and I think I will definitely take this out because this would have been way too complicated for you to do. But you will have to do that when you get into Capstone, but it'll be easier to do. But what market share does the current competition possess? And really the only way that you would know that is you'd have to go and look and see how many customers are in there and then what the sales are. And then you could go back and you could kind of determine what percent of the market share that particular business owns. But I realized after when I put that in there and I was filling this out, there's no way you guys could fill that out. Would you agree that you were very happy that you didn't have to?
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. So really, so all you had to do is just understand what a market share is because I'm just introducing you to that. And then the last question was, how does your product or service compare to competition? Match up or exceed and explain. And so then once again, I went through product and service is normally better because their target market consists of individuals. And notice how I went back to what I had in the chart from 5, their annual income is $70,000 or more. They're courting those who are willing to plunk down the $10. So willing to pay more for that. A quick visit of local Starbucks versus McDonald's would show you that people going to McDonald's want to get in and get out, whereas at Starbucks, they don't want a quality product in an environment conducive to hanging out, which you actually could, and you could do the smell and everything like that. I didn't do the paragraph because I didn't. So questions on part 6, questions on what you did and where you think that I maybe confused you or you have questions on.
No, I don't think it was that difficult.
Okay. So that is 6, and like I said, I'll be grading that this week. And now what you're going to be going into for part 7, and I'll see if I can get that out of there. And like I said, that particular document is actually out in. So in front of you is part 7. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes and nope. Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to start with, and it's going to ask you the very first question before you can start to explore this industry and growth potential is, who is your target market? So you go back to section 5 and you figure out, and you could actually just copy and paste and put that in there. So that one's been graded, the final submission. So anything you put in here should be right. The second question is, how many customers exist in the target market? And remember, those are the number, using the numbers from that customer profile to find out with that demographic information, how many are in your business area. Does anyone think they'll have trouble with that part of it?
No.
Okay. So that, I mean, that should be relatively easy, and I'll give you feedback today on that or when I grade them. The next one is something that you haven't been introduced to before, and it's indicate how you could gather primary research to support the growth of the business. So primary research is totally different than secondary. Primary is going to be, and I have this in the learning materials, but the primary research is like doing surveys, having focus groups, actually just calling up and talking to people. So it's really gathering it face-to-face, firsthand information. It is very difficult if you are starting a business to get primary research to support the growth of a business in like a week or 2. It usually takes multiple different surveys so you can take all that information together and figure it out. And if you ever wonder why companies like Salesforce and some of those other ones are so popular, it's because they are using data and gathering it every time there's a customer interaction. So it's almost like they're gathering primary research with every transaction. And then they're using that information to determine what they can do better for their customers. So if you ever see like a Salesforce logo or any other kind of customer management system that comes up, that's what they're actually doing. They're gathering this primary data, but people don't even realize it, kind of. But so that's what primary is. The other one is what types of secondary research, and that's what you've been doing, and you'll use that for the industry growth. But this is all the research that you're doing. So it's like peer-reviewed articles, research out of the library, statistics from the U.S. Census Bureau, things of like that. It's all research that's been done that you can use to actually support your growth versus the primary is that face-to-face. So does that make sense?
Yes.
And it's the primary is actually harder to gather, but it's actually probably the more valuable data, or people have found. Because secondary research, you could probably argue that it doesn't necessarily always apply to your particular business.
Could you give us an example of an answer from like the coffee shop for either one of those?
So in the primary, so for primary research to support the growth, so for example, if Starbucks was going to determine whether or not they wanted to expand into a certain market, they might send out surveys via either customer surveys. So when you, so like say you're a gold card member, I can't think what it's called, but they have your email address, things like that. They would directly contact you via that personal information and get your answers to questions.
Okay.
Versus the secondary would be like, okay, well, we only want to put a coffee shop into areas where the majority of people have annual income of 70,000 and above, and they have college degrees. So they would go to the U.S. Census Bureau and they would get from American Fact Finder or something. They would find the numbers for that to see how many people are in the specific area they're looking at. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Other questions before I go to the Nate?
That was a very good question, Nick. I like that. Thank you.
And it's always good to ask questions, right? All right, so now let me go to the next part, and this might be, maybe. Oh, here it is. So, and like I said, this is actually out in your, this file, and I'll put it out in the assignment folder too, but it's in the files for this channel. But what is NAICS? It's the North American Industry Classification System, and I'm asking you to locate what your business is. So if we would go to the axe throwing business and look at, so these are the major categories right here. It starts with 11 and it goes down to 92. So 11 is ag, and then you go all the way down through public administration. So why don't you guys just take like a minute and look and think about where your particular business might end up being based on these codes right here.
Okay. I would say mine is 71, arts, entertainment, and recreation.
Potentially. Other thoughts? Yours is, and that's Whoopi, right?
Yes, that's me.
Okay.
So I have the axe throwing business. Axe throwing bar.
And it could be. Other thoughts?
Retail trade.
Definitely could be retail trade. What about restaurants?
Oh, yeah, I guess it is a restaurant too.
Because they serve food. I mean, so that's the other thing I want you to be aware of is that it could potentially be more than one, right? But you may want to just decide to focus on one versus the other.
Is restaurants on there?
Nope, but it's accommodation and food services would be one. And you can go out if you're on your computer and you can like split screens or something. You can go out. I can see if I can get mine on there too. We can go out to the U.S. Census Bureau or just do a. You could do a search for NACEs, and it'll give you take you right to this list. The thing that's changed with this versus when I taught it last year, which is always a change, is that they are removing one section of it and they no longer have this industry growth standard where you can go and click on it and figure out whether it's growing or not. So you have to do a little bit more research, but it's not that hard to do. So if you want to try to go out there, I'm going to do minus 72. I'll see if I can go back and forth between the two sites. But see if you can get out to your NIAX.
So on the internet, it says that full service restaurants 722-511.
Yep. So there you go. You're getting into it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, and you want to make sure when you're doing this is that you're looking. Can you guys see I'm on the U.S. Census Bureau right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you're using the 2017 NIAX search. And even if you didn't know what yours was, I had you kind of look at those different codes. You could type in, and I would go coffee shop, and that's going to bring up this number right here. So if you don't, if you have, so you could do restaurant, right? That's going to give you a variety of different ones. So for example, we've got Murray's on Main. So Todd, Todd in your group, where do you think that might, and Brianna, where do you think that might end up? Based on these in front, or if you maybe can't read them, but.
Either between like a fine dining restaurant to a family restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess they're both the same number.
Yep, and so then, so that's good. So you could go on there. So I'm going to choose this because it's family fine dining and restaurants full service. They're all three. But because you guys have been describing it as fine dining, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And then it's going to tell you some different ones that are out here. And so how you could do some cross-referencing. But does that make sense? So yours wouldn't be, and how the different codes have changed over the years. But I would stick with the 722511. Then I'm going to go back to my. So once you have that, you pick that number out. So yours would be 71, mine was 72. Then you're going to want to scroll through that list and find your number. So mine was limited services. And then once you have that, you're going to have to go and you're going to have to use the LibGuide. And in that LibGuide, which I've given you the link to, you're going to want to choose this Business Source Premier, EBSCO. And then you're going to start your search to get some relative information about whether or not that business is growing. So do you want to take a couple minutes to try to get out there and see if you can do that?
Yeah.
No.
No?
I think we understand that. We could always email if we can't find it.
So, and that's where I want you. So I'm going to be looking for an article from here. So for example, if you go to the second side, Not Your Average Joe, this is talking about, this is the article that I chose, and I know that I got it from EBSCO host, so I can see that. So you'll want to make sure that at least one of your sources for this week's chart that you're filling in the paragraph summary comes from something out here. And this is out here, so it kind of walks you through it. But I picked this article because it has predicted industry trends based on data using this. The trend I would discuss, because that's what I'm looking for, is for you to discuss trends about your business, is that Generation X is pushing a new type of coffee drinker. They are ordering new drinks more often, plus buying more premium and cold coffee beverage. This trend that Starbucks will, this trend indicates that Starbucks will need to continue to introduce new drinks as well as offer multiple cold coffee beverages to stay competitive. Does that make sense what I'm looking for?
Yes.
And a trend is something that's changing, something that's happening.
Okay.
Anybody else have questions on that?
No, I'm still trying to figure out what axe throwing is under. I think
Well,
it's just
I would go with when I go in, I would do bar with entertainment, live entertainment, or something like that. See if I can go out there and find that link. Whoops, wrong one.
They got it right here. Blue axe throwing. The code
Do
is,
they?
yeah.
All right.
Just
They
put
have
in,
it where?
go to Google search NASA's code for axe throwing, Whoopi.
Oh, okay.
And it'll bring up for amusement, recreation, and axe throwing.
Awesome.
There you go. $75 for that, okay?
You don't have to buy any research, you guys. There should be.
The code is 7997.
Is it? So
Oh,
at least you,
Wait, no, the NASDAQ code is 713940, which is fitness and recreational sports.
There you go.
and so once again, you could actually have two, right? Because you also have the bar in there, so that could be where you go back into the beverage one. So like so you could have two. I'm only looking for one, but don't get confused because it doesn't align exactly with what yours is. I put bar in and I got granola bars. Look at that. So here's Barber's though. Miranda, you're on, right? So here's Barber's. That would be 3152.10 because they're doing Joe's Barbers. But anyway, so just know that don't worry if you're not specific, but I just want you to find this and be familiar with it because you will have to use these different classification codes to learn different information.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
All right. So I think just double check and make sure. All right. So that is all I have for today. If you have questions, you could stay on. I know I'm helping a couple people with their Google site. So if you still don't have that coming up, and Whoopi, I told you you didn't have to do one because you're not in our program. If anyone else is not in the business management program, just tell me that, and I will look at your final project differently. If you want to make a Google site, that's cool. They're really easy to do. But if you're not in our program, the business management program, I'm not going to force you to do that.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing is before you log out, make sure you type in one thing that helped you today, and then one area you still have a question in so that I can go ahead and answer those and help you out.